Hello everyone. Let's jump right into a topic that often trips people up when they first start studying for the RMP, and that is the dance between risk and uncertainty. When we look at the formal side of things, uncertainty is defined as a state of deficiency in information, where you just don't have enough knowledge about an event, its consequence, or how likely it is to happen. Think of it like this: uncertainty is the big cloud of the unknown. It's that feeling when you're standing in a thick fog and you know there might be a road or a tree somewhere ahead, but you can't see the shape of it. It's the raw, unmeasured, I just don't know. I remember once starting a project with a brand new technology that had literally been released the day before. We were in a total state of uncertainty. We didn't even know what questions to ask yet. That's the starting point for everything we do in risk management. So now that we've mastered the idea that uncertainty is just a general lack of information, you might be wondering how that actually works in the real world when we have specific goals to meet. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is turning that cloud into an actual project risk. Stay with me here, because this is where we turn that cloud into something we can actually work with. In a professional sense, risk is the effect of uncertainty on project objectives. Let me simplify that for you. Uncertainty is the fact that it might rain tomorrow. It's just a general state of the world. But it only becomes a risk if you have a project objective that rain could mess with, like painting the outside of a house. If you're painting the inside of the house, the uncertainty of rain still exists, but the risk to your project is basically zero. You've probably seen this at the office, where people get panicked about every little unknown thing. I always tell them, wait, is this uncertainty actually going to touch our deadline or our budget? If not, it's just noise. It's not a project risk yet. So now that we've mastered the difference between a general unknown and a specific risk to our goals, you might be wondering how we actually measure these risks to take control. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is adding numbers to the maybe. Now watch how this connects to how we actually manage things. When we talk about risk, we are taking that uncertainty and giving it two specific measures: how likely it is to happen, the probability, and what happens if it does, the impact. Think of it like this: uncertainty is a dark room. Risk management is walking into that room with a flashlight and saying, okay, there's a 30% chance I'll trip over that chair, and if I do, it's going to hurt my knee. We are taking the unknown and giving it some boundaries. I once had a project manager who was terrified of market fluctuations. That's too big and too vague. That's just uncertainty. We sat down and turned it into a risk by saying, there is a 10% chance the price of steel goes up by $5, which will cost us an extra $50,000. Suddenly, the team stopped panicking because we had moved from a scary ghost story to a math problem we could solve. So now that we've mastered how to measure risk with probability and impact, you might be wondering where all this uncertainty comes from in the first place. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is looking at the different types of I don't know. Let's break this down together, because we need to talk about the source of the fog. Sometimes it's because we lack data, that's epistemic uncertainty. Other times it's just the natural randomness of the world, what we call aleatory uncertainty. In simple terms, one is I don't know because I haven't checked yet, and the other is I don't know because it's a roll of the dice. Imagine you're buying a used car. The uncertainty about the engine's health is something you can reduce by taking it to a mechanic. That's the kind of uncertainty we can fix with research. But the uncertainty of whether you'll get a flat tire on the way home, that's just the randomness of the road. In our projects, we spend a lot of time trying to turn I haven't checked yet into now I know, so that the only thing left is the stuff we truly can't control. So now that we've mastered the difference between what we can learn and what is just random, you might be wondering about the uncertainty that comes from people not speaking the same language. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the risk of ambiguity. Don't worry, we'll take it slow here, because we need to look at a very specific type of uncertainty called ambiguity risk. This is when the uncertainty comes from a lack of clarity or having multiple ways to interpret something. Think of it like this: your boss tells you to make the report look better. Well, Better is a very ambiguous word. Does it mean more charts? Does it mean a different font? Does it mean shorter? That's a risk to your project because you might spend 10 hours making it better in a way the boss hates. You might have seen this at work when a client gives a vague requirement like the system must be fast. How fast? That's the fog of ambiguity. As RMP professionals, our job is to shine a light on that fog and say, let's define fast as a 2-second load time. We are killing the ambiguity to lower the risk. So now that we have mastered how to clear up ambiguity to protect our projects, you might be wondering how to summarize this entire risk versus uncertainty mindset for your team. Well, that brings us right into our final step, which is becoming a risk translator. To wrap this all together, think of yourself as a risk translator. Your job is to listen to all the messy, vague uncertainties that your team and your stakeholders have. All those I'm worried about this and I'm not sure about that, and translate them into clearly defined risks. It's like being a weather forecaster. People don't want to hear the atmosphere is unstable. They want to know, is there a 60% chance I need an umbrella at 2 p.m.? When you can take a big, scary uncertainty and say, this is a risk with a specific probability and a specific impact, you give the team back their power. You move them from a state of worry to a state of planning. It's a very calm, very controlled way of looking at the future. So, now that we've mastered the full journey from the big cloud of uncertainty to the clear, measured world of project risk, you are ready to prove you can tell the difference. And that brings us right into our practice quiz. We are going to discuss threats versus opportunities in details in next chapter.